Hey, ¿qué tal amigos? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with another video this week about some of the things that have caught my attention over the last week or so in both the local and international press about Spain. And the first thing that did catch my eye this week was an article in El País newspaper, and the headline was "Countdown begins as Spanish King's brother-in-law prepares for jail time." And more than likely, this member of the royal family will spend some time in jail. So basically, the story behind this was that back in the early 2000s, he went to business school. He met a man there. They formed a business. I think it was his teacher. They started a non-profit organization. He used his influence to get a lot of public contracts, mainly from regional governments and local governments. And apparently a lot of the work was never done. And basically they pocketed all of that money under the guise of a consultancy, a non-profit consultancy. And as I said, using his influence. So probably he was, convinced by the business guru, the business teacher. He saw the opportunity there to make a little bit of money. And of course, the corruption scandal came next. They were convicted of corruption, money laundering, and other things along those lines. And in fact, the king's sister, Christina, Princess Christina, was also involved in this trial, but she was cleared of any wrongdoing, I believe. But Mr. Urdungarin, Iñaki Urdungarin, is possibly going to spend 3 years in prison. El País seems to think that he will go to prison, but I was reading another newspaper yesterday or the day before that said perhaps there's some type of technicality that will enable him to go free. So it will be interesting to see whether a member of the royal family, even though he's not royal obviously, will end up going to prison. These members of the royal family have been banished from all official ceremonies and photo calls, and they live in a virtual exile in Switzerland, and of course he'll have to come back. I think the princess works for a Spanish bank, and this man was working for Telefonica for a long time, and the case really brought the Spanish monarchy to its knees a few years ago. In fact, the previous king abdicated, the new king took over the role, and it's been a difficult few years for them. The Spanish royal family always seems to be walking on thin ice here in Spain. There's a lot of Republican support, a lot of areas in Spain that are not very pro-royals. Catalonia one, and the Basque country another, obviously. So the royal family, as I said, always seems to be skating on thin ice in this country, and this particular case did nothing to help their cause at all in Spain. Now, the next thing that caught my attention this week was the story of a little boy in Almeria who went missing a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately his body was found this week in the back of a car being driven by his father's girlfriend. She has since confessed to the killing. Apparently she was overcome by jealousy, and she admitted to killing him. Basically what happened was the boy went missing. There was an enormous search, I think the biggest search ever here in Spain for a missing person. The police suspected this lady fairly early on in the investigation because she was acting a little bit erratically, and they set up a trap, they baited her, and she fell for it. It also came to light that she has a bit of a dubious past in other places in Spain. I think in Burgos, her daughter died in strange circumstances. Apparently she fell out of a window, but that case has now been reopened as a result of this Gabriel Cruz case in Almeria, and she's being investigated for possible wrongdoing in that case. And there also have been some other examples in the press this week of her dodgy business activities. She's apparently ripped people off in the past, allegedly ripped people off in the past, and confessed to murdering this young boy. So that was the tragedy from the week here. Her personality was described as incredibly cold, possessive, and she's quite an egocentric person. and she murdered this boy, as I said, out of apparent jealousy. And a tragic way to go for the young man. This case also coincided with the political debate that's going on at the moment in the parliament about the length of jail sentences for serious crimes like this one. Apparently in 2015 the law was changed basically to make serious offenders like this one go to jail for a long time, have the key thrown away, as they say. And there's a debate in the parliament at the moment because some of the political parties want to go back to the old system, which favours more of a rehabilitation in the prison system stance. The current system seems to suggest that you can't rehabilitate people that commit these crimes, and there's quite a strong lobby group pressuring the government and other political parties at the moment. And the group is made up of families of victims of serious crimes. There was a girl that was murdered in Seville many years ago. There was another little girl that was murdered in Cadiz, I think it was, and another girl that was murdered here in Madrid about 20 years ago in very bad circumstances. And a lot of the times the people that committed those crimes are now free. They have been released from the prison system, and the PP changed the law in 2015 to make sure that people like this don't get an easy exit out of prison. And the PSOE and some other political parties, the National Party in the Basque Country, want to go back to the old system that favours release after a certain amount of years, so these people can commit these crimes and rehabilitated, released back into society. So the debate is open on that front as well, and we'll see what happens. I think yesterday the Parliament voted to perhaps go back to the old system. So we'll see what happens there with regard to that. And the next thing that caught my eye this week was the European Court of Human Rights overturned a case here in Spain. There was a case many years ago of a couple of young men that were sent to prison for burning a picture of the king. I think it was back in 2007. They were protesting about a royal visit to Girona. They burned a picture of the king and they were sentenced to prison. I don't think they ended up going to prison, but they had their sentence converted to a fine. They had to pay quite a hefty fine, I believe. And the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg this week considered that burning a picture of the king is not a crime. And of course, this sparked the freedom of speech debate, which has been bubbling away over the last few months here in Spain because of the Mordaza law that was passed also back in 2015. Amnesty International also came out this week and said that the law is muzzling people here in Spain. People are too afraid to say what they think, just in case they end up on the wrong side of the law and end up in jail, which has been the case of rap artists. Of a famous singer also sent out a tweet that put him in hot water. There was a group of puppeteers also that were prosecuted for their art, and a couple of other people have sent out tweets and been prosecuted as a result. So quite a controversial topic at the moment, free speech here in Spain. I mentioned it in a video a couple of weeks ago, and this has come up again. Amnesty actually said that, be careful what you tweet in Spain, because, you have to be careful with your words or the things that you say or do. And the last thing that caught my attention this week happened yesterday at a football game in Bilbao. Violence marred Marseille's visit to Bilbao. These radical supporters apparently attacked a couple of security guards. One of them ended up with a knife in his neck. Another security guard had his hand slashed. And something that I can't understand is how this particular sport breeds so much violence. A couple of weeks ago, there was also a clash between Bilbao supporters and I think supporters from Russia. And a security guard or a policeman was actually killed in that event. And this this violence just seems to follow this sport around Europe, especially in these European competitions. Is it me, or is violence only associated to soccer or to football? I can't think of any basketball hooligans. I can't think of any cricket hooligans. I can't think of any rugby hooligans. I can't think of any Australian rules football hooligans, ice hockey hooligans. There only seem to be football hooligans. So maybe it's just this sport that attracts this element of society to it. So that's all that I have to speak about today. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you in the video next week. Hasta luego.